Jupiter at night. It's like a party in my pants, and you're all invited. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Jupiter at Night. My name is Chris.
My name is Jeremy.
Hey there, J-Man.
Hey, Chris. I had a revelation today.
Whoa,
you know what it was?
Lay it on me, dude.
I use Google.
Yeah.
A lot.
And this has been a crazy week for Google.
Yeah.
I mean,
all this week, they've come out with a ton of announcements. They got new apps. They got their new OS.
Yep.
Had their major announcement today.
Finally.
Yeah.
Which seems like we've been waiting to hear about Chrome OS for, like, I don't know, 10,000 years.
Yeah.
I think there was people, cavemen, that, like, just like stamp something
I actually want to get into that a little bit when we get into that. But before we get into all the Google stuff, I do want to remind folks that Stoked is being rescheduled this week. We have to mention this up front because we know you don't watch the whole episode.
And we forgot to mention it in Stoked.
Yeah.
So we thought if some of you were still, or some of you who are watching might be Stoked fans, we get a little public announcement that, yeah.
So it'll be Friday at 6. Is that right?
6 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah.
Over at jupiterbroadcasting.com/live.
So I think in Australia that's next February. So there's a time code.
Yeah, if you go over to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar, we have a time zone converter over there. Also, you'll see on that calendar when we do this very show live, and you can do the math there and all that kind of stuff.
Math.
I know. All right, let's talk about some of this Google stuff.
All right.
The first one, probably the big story, is I guess we finally got today. Was it Chrome OS?
It was very recently. It was within
recently,
the last couple days.
And I thought, let's just go down this list. We've got a few different items that came up from Google. I mean, really, it's probably, I don't. It seems like one of the most verbose weeks for Google yet. So let's start with Chromium OS. That's the open source version of Chrome OS, and go out from there. Now it's interesting because we're finally getting to see some of the features revealed. You know, including it's going to come with a kind of snazzy looking netbook that you'll be able to get as a developer.
That actually surprised me, honestly, because I thought it was going to be a purely software-based sort of release. But then they kept saying, no, it comes with this device. This is the Chrome device.
This is kind of like almost what the Nexus is for the Android platform. I think this is going to be what this is their netbook equivalent for Chrome OS. And it's not a bad netbook. It looks like it's got a 12.1-inch screen. They consider it a full-size keyboard, so not like the smaller kind, which is nice, I guess.
Although I noticed that it's missing a caps lock key.
It's missing the caps lock key with a search button instead.
What am I going to do?
It upsets trolls everywhere, Jerry. I know. I'm sorry. I'm
going to have to hold down shift for that crap.
They claim it'll have an 8-hour battery, though, so you have the time to hold down shift.
That's true.
I don't know.
Okay, but can I just sidetrack for a minute here? Why a netbook?
I know, right?
I thought netbooks are on their way out now that tablets are really taking off.
Well, that's what they say, but here's Google's logic. And this is pretty crazy, but it kind of, when you think about it, if they're right, it could make sense. I think that's the big question. And what it is they look at the computer, and they've got kind of a cutesy video that shows all this. But they look at the computer and they say, most people, average consumers, whoever that nebulous term is, because like, is anybody really an average consumer? Everybody's got like that thing that's. Anyways, average consumers average consumers spend 90% of the time in their web browser on the internet. All that other stuff on their computer, all those extra programs, all those things that start.
They use their web browser for shopping, for email, for photos, for Facebook, for everything. It's all in the browser.
At least in Google's world, right? All that other stuff on the computer is just excess that they don't need, that breaks and causes problems and needs patches.
Causes slow boot ups and things like that.
Yeah, programs that start up. So they figure, okay, let's give people a computer that just gets them on the internet. So they're shipping this thing with some crazy instant on, is what they call it, and they're terming this an always on device, and it fits into this whole people use the computer 90% for the internet, because what they say is they're going to make a deal where the ones shipped in the US will come with like 100 megs a month or something like that of Verizon data.
Yeah.
And then for a while for free.
So for a baseline user, that's more than enough.
Yeah. And then Wi-Fi. And if you're not online, there's a lot of applications that don't work, and they say, well, we figure most people don't use the computer if they don't have an internet connection anyways.
Yeah, that's probably true for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I don't buy in that it's most people. Plus, here's the other problem. With this device, if you're spending 90% of your time in a browser, with this device, you're not able to spend that 10% anywhere else. Meaning that you have to find browser-based solutions for that remaining 10% of whatever you used to do.
Or you don't use it for that.
Or you just don't.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's what they're trying to... I think that's where I think the big if comes from. Are people willing to accept, let's say a $300 device, but it might be more than that, a $400 device, $300 device that does 90% of what they want? Maybe. If you think about people, maybe like family members who are not that savvy with the computer, that don't need to spend $800 on a full computer, that really they're just gonna you're just gonna say, Grandma, use Chrome.
Right.
Go in Chrome, Grandma.
Yeah.
It's better than Firefox. It's better than IE, Grandma.
Well, and actually, that's another thing that I found interesting about their whole announcement is that they seem to be making a big push to put this into the retail market as a competitor, as a direct competitor to Windows.
Yeah.
For appliance type.
They kind of dig on on Windows a little bit when they compare it to other netbooks in their video. They show you, well, look at all this stuff. You have to worry about this loading up and this loading up. You don't need all of that. And they're like, an average Windows, they don't call it a Windows netbook, but an average netbook will take 48 seconds to boot. Right? You know, they kind of dig at it a little bit, but there is some genuineness if you just needed something to do email. Like a lot of people, that's how they're justifying the iPad. Well, it's my morning email device or whatever that is, but maybe you want a keyboard. I don't think it's going to work.
I don't think so either because, well, let's talk about the iPad in particular for just a second here.
Yeah.
You've told me that thing works incredibly with Bluetooth keyboards.
Yeah.
You're only going to want a full keyboard when you're somewhere where you could pull out a Bluetooth keyboard and lay it down, you know?
Or maybe,
you're not going to want a full keyboard on a netbook if you're on the move.
Maybe flights.
Possibly.
But maybe there's somebody that's on flights enough where
I don't feel like the flying commuter is a big thing. Not enough of a market to target.
I can't tell, I know. Yeah, exactly. Not for a massive product.
Right.
But I think it's clear that what they're saying is, and we'll move on from Chrome OS after this, but I think it's clear what they're saying is that Android is for touch interfaces, and Chrome OS is for keyboard and mouse interfaces because they specialize that it has an oversized trackpad on this guy, and that it's
a few very specialized keys like the search button you mentioned.
Yeah. So I think they're worried that from a design standpoint, Android could become a real kludge if they have to tack on mouse and keyboard UI support.
It could be, but on the other side, I mean, I was just saying, why not just go to the tablet route instead of going to netbooks?
Yeah.
Android's going to have tablets in the near future.
So either way, people are buying their operating system.
Yeah,
they win. I think they figure.
I guess there is that.
They figure they're gonna put both products out there. They make money either way, and they're gonna let the market decide.
I just feel like this was less of an announcement than I anticipated Chrome was going to be.
And this is kind of part of the. And I love the analogy here. The buffet analogy.
Yeah.
This is a component of now a meal that you can get at a Google buffet that offers a lot of other stuff. Yeah. And if we go down the list of the other announcements that
before we get into the other ones, I do want to mention that some folks in the chat room were asking about Google TV. We're not.
Oh.
They didn't actually announce anything new, so that's not in tonight's show.
No update on Google TV, and I haven't got my hands on one. No, the lukewarm response.
Yep. I get the feeling that that's because of some licensing and partnership issues, not so much as the device and the service itself.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so I think one of the really big actual things that came out is the new Google eBook store. Now, this, I think, is an interesting approach to an eBook store. It's a little different than anybody else is doing.
I want to put a disclaimer out there for anybody watching this show. eBooks are things you need to read, and I realize that might be a bit of a stretch for a lot of our audience.
Video and all.
Yeah, let's be honest. We publish on YouTube.
Yeah, that's true.
So, buyer beware.
I like how you insult the audience. That's because he's not going to be here tomorrow night, so he gets to piss y'all off and then take off. No, I think the ebook store is a big deal, and what they're doing differently, their approach is, of course, it's Google, so you can buy it. It's stored in the cloud, associated to your Google account. So you buy it once, you can download it.
I like that.
You can buy it, and then it downloads to any device you've got. So say you have an Android phone, an iPad, or you've got an iPhone, iPod Touch, a Google, Android tablet when they come out, a web browser, or anything like that. It'll sync across all of those. But the other real advantage that it's got is, and I say this only from a consumer convenience standpoint, I hate DRM, so don't get me wrong. And not all their stuff is DRM'd, but they use the Adobe DRM system, which the one thing that sounds kind of interesting about that is the Kindle supports that, and it looks like the Nook supports that, and a Sony e-reader supports that, and so you've got...
so not only do you have access to this on all of your handheld devices and iPads and iPhones and all that, but you could also read the same Google eBooks on your Kindle.
Yeah.
You can't do it the other way around, though.
No, you buy a Kindle book and you read it in Amazon Kindle, either apps or devices. That's same with you buy something from the Nook store. What's interesting, and I'm tempted to try this out to tell you guys about it, but I want to pick up a new Nook because those run Android, and you can actually hack them and install like the Kindle app or a web browser on a Nook. So you could buy a Nook and get a Kindle app on there, and then you could read, if you had a Nook, you could read Google Books, Nook Books, free books.
Nook Book.
I know. And Amazon Books. Because part of this Google eBooks initiative is also 3 million free books that are public domain.
Now, I heard that, I had heard, I don't know if this is true, but that whole public domain library is available on the Kindle and the Nook, but it's not as easy to get to.
Well,
like you have to seek out the titles, basically.
Yeah, they give you Amazon gives you like a way to filter down to free, but you dig for it for sure.
Yeah.
The Google one,
but Google's just basically coming out and saying, "Look, this is our new service, and there's 3 million free books on it.
Yeah,
enjoy."
Yeah,
that's cool. That's kind of cool.
So, what do you think about ebooks?
I've always wanted to get into it. I've never read an ebook on like in an electronic format. I really do like paperbacks. Yeah. I like being able to carry something because it's also a physical reminder that, hey, dude, there's a book you forgot to finish reading.
That's true. Yeah. That is a big thing.
Yeah. Which is actually, even with this, I'd still be interested in getting a Kindle or a Nook.
Yeah.
I mean, even though I've got an iPhone, so I could just use.
That's what's interesting about this Google Books approach is it kind of seems like a good thing for consumers. And
choice is always good, right?
And it doesn't seem like it's really. It's like they are taking on Amazon and the Apple iBook store and the Nook store and all that stuff.
But they're also taking a very unique approach in that this is just the store.
Yeah.
They're not trying to sell you a product or a device.
The Chrome OS devices will ship with a book reader built in.
I think that's more of a value add for those devices rather than that this is selling you on that.
Yeah. Also kind of funny, when they launched, they got a fair amount of traffic, I guess, and one of the things that came up when they went down was their own special branded fail whale.
Moby Dick.
Yeah.
Although not, because that whale's not white.
Well, okay, good.
Literature fail.
Yeah. But that's kind of a little tongue-in-cheek, little call-out to Twitter there. All right. So now the last thing that kind of goes with all this, all right, so you've got Google, you've got the Chrome OS, it's going to come with a book reader. Mm-hmm. You're doing all your stuff on the cloud on Chrome OS. But the problem is, Jeremy, a man needs to print.
Do we?
On occasion.
I thought we lived in a paperless digital society, man.
I wish. Trust me, I wish. Oh
Says the guy with a pile of Post-it notes on his desk.
Yeah, no kidding. That's for sure. But so this cloud print actually kind of has my interest peaked.
Really?
It really does.
Oh, this one was like a footnote for me.
No, it's actually...
Okay, tell me your excitement
I think out of
then.
all of this will be... Well, with exception of the Android update, I think this will be the Google update that I use the most. So Google Cloud Print, if you don't know, is actually out and available now if you're on Windows XP, Vista, or 7, and you have to get like the latest edition of Chrome. Link in the show notes if you happen to be one of those people. But the whole idea is that from any device, you can use your own computer as a proxy to your printer. So if you got a mobile device or even a regular computer...
Dude, I hadn't even thought of that.
You're out and about and you're like, oh man, I really need to print this. The cloud print service. I don't know exactly how it works.
I really hadn't even thought of that.
But it lets you send print jobs. Yeah, and then the scuttlebutt is that in 2011, HP and a few other manufacturers will build the Google Cloud Print Connect technology into the printer.
Right directly into it.
So you don't have to have a proxy, your computer as a proxy.
I'm kind of a smartphone newbie, but are you saying... Well, let me just ask you, would it be easy right now if I wanted to print something from my iPhone? Or would it be difficult?
Difficult.
But now with this, it makes it easier.
Maybe only in Google Apps. See, I don't know exactly how that works. 'Cause it's not like they have access to the. They could give it to at an OS level to Android, but they can't do it to the iPhone.
Yeah.
But you see, they probably will.
Right.
And all of this stuff is going to be integrated. Really, it's all coming together. And the iPhone, you might be able to do it when you're in Docs or Gmail, but you're not going to get it in the
Google
OS
Apps.
level. Yeah. It's kind of an interesting system they developed, though. You take your Google Apps,
your webs,
and you send it to the
internet, and you put it in your clouds.
And it connects up to your Google account, and that sends it down to the right computer, and the print job happens.
Can I sidetrack the whole show for just a minute here?
Sure.
The cloud.
Yeah.
I mean, Windows has that whole big send it to the cloud advertising thing right now.
Yeah.
I thought the cloud was something completely different. We were talking about this a little bit before the show. I always envisioned that cloud computing was something like SETI at home,
and I always
or folding at home.
I say it's part of it, but I don't think it's the cloud.
Well, I thought that the cloud, the whole idea was that every computer
resources
in the world would be part of the cloud, and when you're not using your computer, you can give it to your neighbor.
Your cycles are donated to the cloud.
Right.
Whatever the cloud needs.
I thought that it was some sort of
what needs to
gigantic society, you know, that was going to just be the new computer brain that's all over the world. But
we are, but it's just in a much more organic. Like, think about this.
It's become.
If
more
you
of
ask a question on Twitter, there's several hundred people that will see that in their Twitter stream
and ignore it.
And think about it.
Yeah,
they're just using brain CPU. So you're using cloud shared CPU resources.
Yeah,
it's their brain CPU,
not their fingers. Come on, people, help me out here.
The man has questions on the Twitter. All right, why don't we wrap up our Google-tastic episode and just talk a little bit about the Nexus S, just because it is a little bit of the sexy, and it is going to be the hotness for a while for Google phones.
Yep.
And
I just said earlier, I'm a smartphone noob, so
yeah, everybody knows what the point of the Nexus S is.
Nope,
because it's not. I don't think it's going to be super cheap. Well, the Nexus S, the problem with Android, everybody says, "Oh, Android has fragmentation. All these devices, all these different form factors." And
everyone's got a different OS overlay or user interface.
That is true too. But the Nexus S can kind of be like the great neutralizer in a sense. It sort of sets the benchmark for the gingerbread moving forward platform devices.
Because people don't know, the Nexus line are Google phones.
Yeah.
These are the ones that they make. These are their devices.
And that means like a pure, like what they call a pure Google experience, where everything on the phone is completely stock as it would be down at Google. So, no HTC Sense, no Moto Blur, or whatever you might have on an Android device.
Yep.
It looks like a great phone, really. But kind of subpar in a lot of ways. It's got a gigahertz processor. It has 16 gigabytes of storage, but no expansion slot.
That doesn't sound much better than other phones on the market.
No.
Is there any really standout feature?
It's got a good display. It's got a nice look. It's it's a good looking it's a good looking phone. Its honest to God feature, its true feature is that it is a completely vanilla Google experience that has gingerbread on it. It will be the only gingerbread device that you can buy without and not hack to get gingerbread for a while. That's just a fact. And last but not least,
wait, does that mean that Google might be purposefully just holding back on the OS update so that they can market their own phone?
Well,
I mean, is there at least a little bit of that possibly involved?
I mean, they definitely hold back. They release it, and then everyone can get it when they release it.
Right.
But they don't like publicly. I mean, maybe they've been working with HTC for 6 months. I'm sure they must be. They must work with them on the back end to fix stuff. So they must. But publicly, it looks like just a big unveiling. Go get it. But if you want to get gingerbread and you want to develop for Android, or you want, for me, for a reviewer, it's really nice to have.
Yeah.
And because it is a genuine vanilla Google Android, it means you get a Wi-Fi hotspot.
Oh, right.
So wherever you go, you get Wi-Fi. That's not bad.
I need to bring around one of those so that I can use my iPhone wherever I want. So I don't use cell access on that.
James. Now, have you heard about this? They call it it's NFC, Nearline Communications. I forget what it's called. Maybe
if you don't remember the name, I haven't heard of it.
Okay, so they're building in a.
You're part of my Google brain, dude.
Yeah, this Nexus S has a reader built into it that if something is transmitting a signal, it can pick it up.
Oh,
kind of like RFID, not RFID, but I don't know why it's not RFID. It seems like kind of seems like the same thing. Near field communications, that's what it's called, and it has a little sensor built into it. Like the idea is, sales and stuff like that. If you scan your Android phone over it, you'll get a bonus or a discount or something like that.
All right.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes. So I would say on the end, each individual one not super strong on its own. None of them really seem to blow your skirt up individually, right?
I'm most interested in the eBooks because this would be a great reason and a great interface to use to get into the whole thing. I think
eBooks has got to be high on my list too.
Yeah, no, that's definitely top for me.
The print seems like it could be handy, and
I wanted Chrome OS.
You might find a day where printing from that could be handy.
That's true.
Yeah,
I wanted Chrome OS to be to be interesting.
But you're losing steam in netbooks.
I just don't think netbooks are the future in any way. I've been using a netbook that you graciously gifted to me because it's a piece of crap. Thanks.
I've been using a netbook recently too. Just like within the last couple of weeks, I've been relying heavily on a netbook, and I found it to be extremely frustrating.
Yeah, and it's not just the speed; it's the form factor. It's the fact that it folds is really inconvenient. I mean, the whole thing.
Really.
I continually actually want it to flip around like into like a tablet.
That would be nice.
Slide.
That would be nice.
It's just. It's inconvenient.
Brian's ThinkPad can flip around.
Yeah,
and
that's a
nice.
Great feature to have in a netbook.
Yeah.
But then it just becomes a tablet, so why don't you want a tablet?
That's the thing.
Just get a tablet.
That's the thing.
Where is the future of netbooks? I don't know that it has one. Unless they start, like the whole industry, not just Google, but like everybody that wants to make netbooks something needs to start really pushing the advertisement, or these are for people that use the internet and nothing else.
I wonder
They're internet appliances.
I wonder if that's how it'll work.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's what it is.
But I think it seems like until Google came out with Chrome OS.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe I should give them props for kind of busting that door down. It seems like people were holding back and trying to sell full computers to people that didn't need full computers. Even an e-machine has more power. Like a low-end $300 e-machine has more power than most people's like grandparents need.
Yeah,
for checking
absolutely.
email.
And there, with a full operating system, it is almost too much for a netbook.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of why I think that this could have some success with certain.
But it needs a bigger push. As big as Google is, I don't know that they have the clout on their own to move the industry.
A lot of the people that also would want that kind of computer need a bigger screen,
and
they need bigger stuff
and bigger buttons.
It's a hard market.
Yeah.
And they say it's a full-size keyboard, but not everyone will. And I don't know. I think Chrome OS is.
Think about this though. It's a 12.5-inch screen, and that covered the entire thing. That means the keyboard was about 12.5 inches. It's not completely full. That's this part of it, full size.
Yeah.
That means no function, no number pad,
right.
no extra insert and delete or arrow keys.
And since they have to fit the arrow keys on there, they're crammed in there somewhere, and it's not going to be a great experience.
Yeah,
it's a little better than typing on a touchscreen, but not much.
I don't buy it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we'll look back in a few years now. We were talking about having a predictions episode. So
do you remember how right Jeremy was?
But I think we will. I think we'll look back and say, yeah, Chrome OS was like that was. I don't think we'll be talking a lot about it in 2012. Maybe we'll play this back and be really surprised.
I'd like to be wrong.
Yeah. Because it could be kind of neat.
It's a neat idea, at the very least.
And because it's an open source OS, you could always go load it on your own device.
Right.
That's kind of nice.
In fact, I could replace the netbook OS I'm using right now.
Maybe. You got to check the hardware requirements.
Oh, yeah.
You never know.
That's a piece of crap.
Yeah. But if it could, would you?
Yeah, I think I would at least give it a shot. See if it could give that old netbook a new lease on life.
Google's whole goal with it is... I think it's still pretty rough as far as hardware support goes, but I think their whole goal is they just need people to get on the internet. They need the internet to not be a lot of effort.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want you to have to go, oh, man, I got to go turn my computer on and 5 pop-ups come up and it takes 10 minutes. They're like, no, we want people to just go pop in your own.
Now, there are other... somebody in the chat room just mentioned Jolly Cloud.
Yep.
I mean, that's a cloud-based OS, right?
Yeah, I reviewed Jolly Cloud's nice.
And so, I mean, Google is not the first, but obviously they're the biggest.
It just doesn't matter. Yeah, Google, once Google walks into the room, you're not going to... I mean, maybe you'll see Dell on their Mini put Jolly Cloud, but I think you're going to see Chrome OS.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. And I think netbooks will remain a product category with Dell and HP and companies like that.
And where does, like, Migo fit into this? Are they a tablet OS or a mobile OS?
Sure.
Netbook as well?
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
They're more touch driven.
Yeah.
They're probably more, smartphone and tablet. I think Migo would be an amazing tablet.
I could go for a netbook with touch interface.
Yeah.
So you could have an option.
Isn't that you want the full OS?
Sometimes. Like even me, if you're talking about spending 90% on the internet, I want that other 10.
Yeah.
I might need it sometime.
Yeah.
I don't want to be locked into having.
It seems like the Chrome OS OS is going to be like a mixed bag because like they're going to have offline Google Docs.
Here's the thing:
but some stuff has to be online.
Some stuff is offline. Yeah, they said they have some access to even your like music and stuff. You can sometimes access it offline.
Schnips.
They're not really saying how. But let's take a hypothetical. I buy a Chrome device.
Yeah.
And then I'm using it, and I'm using it for everything. And then the very first time I encounter a point where I can't do something on that, I'm going to suddenly feel like I wasted my money. Because a device is important because I need to be able to do what I want to do on it.
Yeah.
That's why I'm a PC user, I think. That's why I'm not so much into consoles sometimes even.
I know exactly what you mean because I have been in this situation where there's been like 2 models of computers I can buy.
Mm-hmm.
And one is like way more expensive, and the other one is way less, but I have doubts it can do what I need it, and I get that one, and then I get
you regret.
And then I regret it big time. And then I'm mad because now I've spent all of that money, and I've got nothing.
Right.
Obviously that's not the case, but that's how I feel. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, So, but I think you have to, like, with tablets and stuff like that, you're buying into a use paradigm. This has limitations, but if I set my expectations at this level, I won't get angry. It'll work. It'll do exactly what I need. But when I go above this level, I go to a full PC. I don't think the netbook fills that gap.
No, I don't think so either.
And
specifically not this, because it's so limited to the cloud. I don't see it filling the needs of people that want the power of a PC or the versatility of a PC but don't need the power.
Unless the full QWERTY keyboard is just the deal breaker. You gotta clickety clack when you type.
Yeah.
If that's what it is, then there's just no way around.
I'm sure there is a market for that, but I don't know how big of a market it is.
Because, like you mentioned,
and you know what? The other thing that I completely forgot to bring this up while we were talking about Chrome OS, but they're saying it's very security savvy.
Yeah, but then it's going to have auto updates in the background and stuff like that.
But that is cool. I hate having to manually update my own software. That is actually a really big selling point for it.
Yeah,
cloud-based computing wins.
Okay,
on that point,
Chrome does it too. Have you ever seen an update prompt for Chrome?
No, absolutely not.
No.
But Adobe, Java, Flash, Windows, all of the antivirus, all of everything, and even your codecs for video playback.
That's one nice thing with your Ubuntu desktop and any Linux desktop. You log in. I was saying Ubuntu because that's what you use at home. When you log into it, it's that pop-up for their updates. You get pop-up, but it's all in that spot.
Right.
It's not each individual application. That's nice. Well, okay, where are we going?
I'm really worried about the security because this is all Google integrated. Right down to, we already have a lot of our identification information tied into Google, and we use several different services.
I think,
but this, like the ebook store, ties your credit card to your Google account.
I already have one because I buy stuff from the Android app market.
Oh, right.
And there was that, there was stuff that in the WikiLeaks cables that were leaked that China had access to the Google login authentication source code.
I got an email from Google administration about 3 or 4 months ago, telling me that my account had been accessed from an IP that was located in Mongolia or something like that. It was over in Asia.
They have good beef,
but they wanted my account for some reason. I mean, it was like a valid login, wrong location. And they just sent me a notification telling me,
hey, that's probably not right.
I mean, could be you logged in that morning and that evening back at home, and then there was the one in Mongolia between those.
It's pretty nice they catch that.
It was. But now, what if those persons that logged in as me actually have all my information stored somewhere?
They're down there in Mongolia ordering up a ton of Mongolian beef with
using my credit card.
Yeah.
And not sending me any. Oh, that's the worst part.
All right, so tomorrow night the J-Man's off. But we'll have someone in his spot. I'll see if maybe John wants to join us or Alan. We'll see who's going to.
We'll just put the chat room right here.
Maybe I'll go get temporary Brian. And put it the topic of tomorrow night's show will be our geek buying guide.
And even though I won't be here, I will put a few links in the show notes.
And if you want a few recommendations for your non-geek family relatives, be sure to ask in the comments for this video so that way I can read them and know before the next episode.
Research.
Otherwise, it's going to be a lot of geeky stuff.
It's actually just going to be any question that you ask in the comments, Chris types it into Twitter and lets other people answer it for him.
That's a great idea. I hadn't thought of that. I like that.
And buzz.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much
for
the
cloud.
Tonight's episode. Yeah, send it off. Get my answers. We'll see you tomorrow night.